What about the increase in prominence of AI? How do you expect that to affect the overall stock market? Do you think that a few companies are going to be massive winners, or do you think that the broad access to AI is going to lift a lot of the smaller companies that now can do things at a low cost? Like the big companies used to use economies of scale. Now everyone has access to AI, which just decreases the cost of labor and production.
I think thus far, what seems to be happening in public markets is the gains seem to be accruing to a relatively small portion of companies. Mag 7, the companies that are leaders in AI
But
are
those are like the
definitely getting
data
a.
centers ones, though. You right? Typically, the ones that own the centers themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you have the infrastructure layer for sure, and also the chip makers,
Mhm.
NVIDIA. I mean, all these companies that are training models are by and large doing it on NVIDIA chips. Now NVIDIA is the world's most valuable company. Um, but yeah, it's still if you I'm sure you guys have looked at this chart. If you look at the S&P 500 and compare the returns of Mag 7 over the past year to everyone else, it's like Mag 7 is huge.
Mhm.
Everyone else is kind of flat, which indicates to me that there's sort of like a centralizing effect to this. Now, I don't know if that's going to be indefinite. I would think as the AI tools get better, you'll have more. My prediction over the long run is you'll have more single person companies. Like
Mhm.
one individual will be able to use AI as a huge accelerant to starting a business. And in the same way that, if you wanted to start a software company in the 90s, you'd have to like manage your own data center. But AWS came along, the cloud software providers came along, and suddenly you no longer need those 50 people to like buy servers and rack and stack if you want to start an internet company. I think you can think of AI as fulfilling a lot of these specialized functions that you would have had to spend a lot of your time thinking about. Um, and then, if Robinhood gets in and you have something close to capital as a service where you can press a button and get money in your bank account for starting your venture, I think we'll have a lot more companies.
As a CEO of a massive public company, a concern of many people is that AI is going to be taking everyone's jobs. Do you notice this to be somewhat the case? Like, if you don't replace some labor with AI, you're just going to lose out to competitors. And do you think that that's a valid fear? Or how do you, as someone with many employees, see AI competing with the labor force? How do you see that relationship?
Jobs certainly will change over time. Some things that you can now do entirely with AI uh, should be done entirely with AI. I think we have to shift as a society and not artificially protect those jobs, but work on making sure the people that are on that path are able to pivot and do something that is more valuable to society. In the same way that you wouldn't protect lamplighters, right? And it was funny. It's very romantic in a way. People used to come with those torches and light all the lamps. I think I was in London last Thanksgiving, and they have one part of the city where they're still like protecting the lamplighters. I do think humans will still be at the center of things, and there will be lots of opportunities for human ingenuity, at least for the foreseeable future. I think the jobs will change, and nobody can think about, you've heard this term, the singularity, right?
Mhm.
The singularity, Ray Kurzweil, intelligence explosion. I think it's inherent in singularities that they're hard to think about, but I think we have a pretty good clarity over what the next 2 to 3 years at least is going to look like. Probably 5 to 10. I think we're still far away from, humanoid robots coming into our houses and, burping our children or putting them to sleep. So, uh, yeah, I think humans are going to be calling the shots for a while, which means that there will be new and more interesting human jobs. And in the same way that those of us that were early adopters of smartphone technology in the 2000s, or early adopters of the internet, or early adopters of like spreadsheets in the 80s, if you were an accountant, for instance, you have a huge advantage. And what I've been telling folks here is at some point, it's going to go from being an advantage which I think we're in now. If you
Mhm.
really use these AI tools, you're at an advantage to everyone else. And at some point, probably rather quickly, I mean, we probably don't have 5 years. I'd say we have 2 or 3, to a point where if you're not AI native and if you're not conversant in these tools, you'll be at a disadvantage relative to anyone else. So I don't think people should worry about AI taking their jobs. I think people should worry about someone that's AI conversant, being more valuable than them in the market. And you should prepare yourself for that scenario.
How should someone prepare themselves for that? Like, what should they learn, or what do you recommend people do?
I mean, think about it like a child, right? Um, I think like you look at children using computers in the 80s and 90s, and they would just like play with them, right? They'd like play with it. It takes time. It takes interest. I think the problem with that a lot of adults have in the workforce are they're very busy. They have existing tasks. And, sometimes when you get those tasks done, you're just tired and you don't really have time. And, we have other things going on. We have families. But at the end of the day, it just takes dedicated time to play with these new technologies. And if you can integrate that play with your work, if you can actually like figure out how to use it while you're working. I'm a huge proponent of integrating work and play in your personal life, and I think having them be separate worlds is not a long-term sustainable strategy. Um, but yeah, you just have to like play with it and tinker. I think that's the best way.